Because of my upbringing, I expected to see what I had always been taught: a man in white robes, seated upon a golden throne, waiting to judge me, but that image never came. Welcome to Let's Lift the Veil. Before diving into today's story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and activate the notification bell. Every week, we explore new testimonies of those who have crossed the threshold between life and death. Tonight's account takes us back to 1996, when a man's ordinary afternoon turned into a journey beyond human comprehension. After a tragic accident, his consciousness separated from his body, and what followed was not darkness, but revelation. A voyage through the stream of life itself, where individuality dissolves, and the essence of existence is understood as one. Dear viewers, I must warn you. Part of this story describes a historical event that may shock or upset some people. But I want to emphasize that this story is a personal account from someone who had a near-death experience. He is not trying to convince you or make you reconsider anything you know or believe about this historical event. This is not a tale of faith or fear, but of awakening. Welcome to the River of Life, a near-death experience that redefines what it means to live and to return. It happened on a late August afternoon in 1996. The sun was heavy in the sky, and the air smelled faintly of gasoline and asphalt. I was helping to push a disabled car along the side of the road, when in an instant, everything changed. A sudden roar, screeching tires, a violent impact. Metal collided against metal, and I was caught between the two vehicles. The force bent both frames as if they were paper. Then, silence. When I regained consciousness, I was lying on a gurney in the emergency room. There were voices, urgent, mechanical, and the sharp scent of antiseptic in the air. I knew without anyone telling me that I was dying. Oddly, I felt ready. I welcomed the release from pain. Because of my upbringing, I expected to see what I had always been taught: a man in white robes, seated upon a golden throne, waiting to judge me, but that image never came. Instead, there was blackness, a silence deeper than anything I had ever known. The light around me began to shrink, until it became a single pinpoint far away in the distance. Then I felt myself falling backwards, into the dark. There was no fear, only the sensation of a cool wind moving past me. I turned, not with a body, but with awareness, and the light grew. When I emerged from the darkness, I found myself floating near the ceiling of the emergency room, looking down at my body on the gurney. I wasn't disturbed. There was no pain, no sense of loss, only peace, profound and absolute. Every sound in that room felt distant, irrelevant. For the first time, I understood what it meant to simply be. I had no wants, no needs, no identity. I only existed, complete and whole. Then, I sensed a presence behind me. It wasn't a being, not in the human sense, but a consciousness, and suddenly, communication began. It wasn't thought, telepathy, or language. It was knowing, instant, total knowing. There were no questions, only understanding. I knew I was to return, and in that moment, I felt my first desire. I didn't want to. I wanted to stay, I wanted to remain in this peace. That's when the wall beyond the gurney turned transparent. Beyond it, I saw a river, shimmering, silver, alive. Each drop of that river glowed with its own color, and yet, all flowed together as one. It wasn't water. It wasn't even light as we know it. It was life itself, a stream of consciousness flowing endlessly. Every experience, every thought, every existence, all at once. I understood that each colored drop represented a life, an experience, a moment of being, and yet, all of it belonged to the One. There was no separation, no individuality as I had known it. Each part was the whole, and the whole was each part, many being one, and one being many, simultaneously. In that awareness, I felt I could access everything, every word ever spoken, every feeling ever lived, every heartbeat that ever pulsed across time. This was the collective consciousness, the living memory of the universe. Any experience could be known, as if it were a first-person experience, happening at the time it happened originally. Then came a moment of profound realization. There was no man on a golden throne, no divine judge waiting. Instead, I experienced, first person, the life of the one humanity calls Jesus. He was not a supernatural being. His name was closer to Josephus. He was born to ordinary parents, and at birth, he too had a near-death experience. He carried the knowing of that other side throughout his childhood, and because of it, he suffered. He was isolated and misunderstood. As he grew, he began to teach what he had seen. He told others not to fear death, that beyond it lay only peace and infinite love. He spoke of unity, of awakening to the truth of who we really are. He told people that everyone was exactly the same, and everyone could know who they really were and awaken to their spiritual self. But in time, he drew a small crowd of followers, and some around him saw power and profit in his words. They sought to build religion from revelation and replace the Jewish priests because of the money and power. He cast the power-mongers out of his following. 5 of them conspired against him. At his trial, there were 3 witnesses against him. All were his followers. He was hanged, not crucified. He was just a petty criminal to the Romans. In a hurry, the Romans cut him down a little early, and his loyal followers carried his body off. He revived again, having had a second near-death experience. He lived for a while, hiding from his 5 traitorous former friends, the Antichrist, but died after a bit, from his injuries. This vision wasn't emotional or dramatic. It was pure understanding. The river sharing its knowing. There was no judgment, no punishment, no hell or heaven. Only infinite compassion, only unity. As I touched the river, if touch is even the right word, I felt myself expand beyond all comprehension, worlds within worlds, dimensions beyond dimensions. I experienced infinity itself. Each realm, each existence, was part of the One, and I realized I had lived many of these lives, across time, space, and reality, each one another drop within the stream. But I also knew I couldn't stay. There was still more to be done, more to learn through pain, and I felt the knowing return. You must go back. I resisted. I begged silently not to return, and then a new understanding came. Two sensations filled me, one of light and warmth, when something was right, and another, cold and dim, when something was wrong, a lesson, simple yet eternal. Then the light dimmed. I felt myself falling backward once again into darkness. The wind returned, the turning, the small point of light, and suddenly I was back on the gurney, back in the pain, back in my body. They told me later that I had died again during surgery, but no further visions came, only the memory, vivid, eternal, unshakable. My life, behind the veil. When I finally awoke, the hospital room felt strangely quiet, as if reality itself was thinner than before. The pain was immense, but it no longer defined me. I had seen what lay beyond it. I knew, not believed, but knew, that death is not the end. It is a return, a homecoming, and from that day on, fear no longer lived in me. Religion, once the core of my identity, simply fell away. I no longer saw God as a distant figure on a throne, but as the living current that flows through all existence. I stopped calling myself a Southern Baptist. I found no use for walls, doctrines, or labels. What remained was a quiet knowing that we are all fragments of the same source, drops within the same river of light. My relationships changed. Friends who once knew me drifted away. I had changed too deeply for them to understand. In time, my marriage dissolved, but through the solitude came clarity. I could hear life speaking, in whispers, in intuitions. I began to sense things before they happened. Not visions, not magic, but guidance. An intuition, a direct connection to that source I had touched. When I listened, everything flowed. When I resisted, everything slowed. Sharing the story took time. Almost a year passed before I spoke of it aloud. The first person I told simply thanked me for confirming that there truly is something after. Even now, decades later, the experience feels as vivid as the moment it happened. It never fades. It doesn't grow old. It simply is. That knowing lives in me, silent and constant, a reminder that everything, every joy, every loss, every heartbeat, is part of the same eternal flow. We are not separate. We have never been separate. And when our time comes, we simply return to the river of life. If this story moved you, share it with someone who might need hope today. Leave a comment below. Every thought, every testimony, helps us lift the veil a little higher. Like and subscribe for more real near-death experiences testimony told with authenticity and depth. Check the links in the descriptions if you want to share your near-death experience. For more first-hand accounts, watch the next episode on the following screen. New narratives drop regularly. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss one. Let's keep lifting the veil, one episode at a time. Take care of yourself and your loved ones. See you soon for another journey beyond the veil.